Hello everyone, this is Ange. Welcome to another episode of the Visual Novel Monthly Recap, this time talking about news that happened in September of 2025. Shirobune has released the final episode of Criminal Border Life Sentence, or as it's called on Steam, Liminal Border Part 4. As a reminder, this is a visual novel developed by Purple Software, though most notably it's written by Kazuki Fumi, who wrote the 99 series by Palette, and Kimagure Temptation by Silky's Plus Wasabi. After many fans noted that the third episode of Criminal Border was the definitive highlight, some considered the final episode a significant downgrade. That said, as someone who loves this series and considers it my overall favorite episodic visual novel series due to its excellent pacing and its approach as a modern, realistic, dark-ish drama, I still think Criminal Border Life Sentence is quite good. It may have played things a bit too safe and didn't capitalize on some twists as well as I'd hope. However, it certainly ends on a solid emotional note, building on the events of the previous 3 episodes. You can currently get all 4 Criminal Border episodes on Steam or at various non-DRM stores like Manga Gamer, Jast, or Denpasoft. Shirobune then announced a rather surprising announcement. They are going to be translating Usually's newest title, Wayblazer Damarung. This is rather surprising because apparently, Usually, the developer of gameplay-heavy visual novels like Kamidori Alchemy Meister and Kamino Rhapsody, have apparently previously stated that they were not particularly interested in officially translating their works for the West, to the point where, until now, every translated title from them was fan-translated. Hopefully, if and when this Wayblazer title is released, it can pave the way for more official Usually titles in the future. You can currently wishlist it on Steam. Shuten Order, developed by Nilo Inc., has been translated and released worldwide through Xnoa and Spike Chunsoft. This is notable as it's yet another title by Kazuta Kodaka, the creator of the Danganronpa series and 100-line Last Defense Academy, though he served more as a director for Shuten Order. Apparently, the more active writer was Takumi Nakazawa, who wrote visual novels like Remember 11 and Root Double Before Crime After Days. However, Shuten Order itself seems to be a rather unique mystery title, featuring a distinctive art style and blending multiple genres, including dating sim and even stealth horror. That said, looking at the Steam reviews, while people seem to enjoy the story, I also noticed many complaints about functional engine issues such as awkward dialogue transitions, and some players experiencing black screens at times, as well as some complaints about the translation itself. Cloud saves were not available at launch, but were added later according to updates. Hopefully, by the time this video is released, many of these issues will have been resolved or will be in the process of being resolved, as this appears to be a generally well-liked, unique mystery title that you can get on Steam and Switch. Shirobune has also released Waiting Flowers of a World Eternal, The Rainbow Appears After Flowering Rain. This visual novel was developed by Sweeten Tea, though the scenario writer is the same person who wrote For Nekopara Volumes 0 through 3. I've seen this title receive some decent praise as a solid Nakige set in an interesting fantasy setting, but I've also noticed some hit or miss reviews on VNDB. That said, this visual novel was apparently popular enough to inspire a fan translation by Shinzo Translations before the group took down the fan TL out of respect for the official release, which could be something to take note of if you're interested. At the Nintendo Direct in early mid-September, Spike Chunsoft announced an interesting release called Danganronpa 2x2. At first glance, it appears to be just a Danganronpa 2 HD remaster or something, but apparently, even though it's going to use the same setting and characters, they're also planning to change a lot of the scenarios, including different culprits, killings, and other elements. So if you just wanted to see more of the Danganronpa 2 cast, but with more unique cases to solve, this could be worth looking forward to. Nekonyan has released Onigyu, or Hold Me Tight All Night Oni-chan, developed by Tinkle Position. This is the title for all you Ero Imoto lovers out there. Soul Press originally released Oni Kiss by the same developer, which Nekonyan also rescued from Soul Press when they went under. Oni Kiss basically had you take part in a moe nukige where you engage in wholesome family bonding, including quick minigames where you have to click on the main character's little sister's lips to kiss them. A similar minigame happens in Hold Me Tight All Night, but with hugging over kissing. I am definitely not an Emoto fan, but I know some people who are excited for this. So if this fits your niche, especially if you liked Oni Kiss, you'll probably like this one a lot too. Nekoyan is also making very slow but steady progress towards finally releasing Dragon Riot on Steam, as there's finally a Steam page with a current release window of Q4 2025. Obviously, there's still no guarantees with that release window, especially given how long it's been taking, but I think ever since they mishandled the Angelic reboot on Steam situation, they basically have to nail this Dragon Riot HD release now. A demo has been released for the Japanese-only version of the remake of Kao no Nai Tsuki Reborn. However, on Twitter, one of the character artists, Carnelian, made a tweet specifically reaching out to people who want translations of this remake of a really old title, noting that you have to just interact with that person's post or the developer's Twitter at NSM Reborn Reborn to show interest in a translation. I don't know if enough interactions had been made as I didn't take part, but it's nice to know that there's a potential possibility for a translation for what seems to be a decently liked classic. Kaketa Sky has released a translation for the original Sui no Sora, a custom build making it readable on modern computers, as the original Sui no Sora was released all the way back in 1999 in Japan. If you don't know, Sui no Sora is one of the original Denpa visual novels, being incredibly influential for this specific subgenre, to the point it got a pseudo remake in the ever so popular Subarashi Heavy or Wonderful Everyday, and a direct remake in Sui no Sora 2020 remake. That said, the original Sui no Sora is definitely a notable piece of history, and while it does have flaws in presentation like lacking voice acting and featuring a very old school art style, if you just want to see what the ever so popular writer Skaji was doing with his very first visual novel, this could be worth checking out. Type Noise Shonen Shoujo has been released on Steam, developed by Dank Hearts and published by Whisper Games. The story appears to be a mystery one, heavily inspired by Zero Escape and Ace Attorney, complete with quirky Zero Escape-like puzzle gameplay and the like, with an apparent strong focus on facing one's trauma and not turning away from it. Sadly, based on reviews on Steam, the English translation appears to be incredibly subpar at the moment, so just keep that in mind. Though I did notice that there was text added by the publisher that there's currently an extra proofreading run being done for the English translation, but why didn't they just do that to begin with? Kawaii announced a very surprising translation of a relatively older ASA project title called Renai 0 Kilometer. This is generally considered one of, if not the most popular ASA project titles in Japan, and the fact that it is being translated is a very interesting choice since Nekanyan usually does the translations for the newer ASA project titles. As of now, it is set to come out in November, hopefully with an 18+ patch, hopefully not too long after the release like they did with Tayutama. A new Otome game has released an English translation, which unsurprisingly is limited to the Nintendo Switch store, called Illusion of Itehari. I think the Nintendo Switch store description is the best way to describe the plot that I'm aware of. A love story from the beautiful and ephemeral world of the mechanical floating utopia, and Itehari, the renowned and prosperous flying city, Hinagiku longs to explore the world beyond. One day, Hinagiku encounters an amnesiac man named Yashiro. Their chance meeting drags her into a series of events involving the secrets and various truths hidden beneath the surface of Itehari, for this garden city in the sky is a false utopia. After assumedly the Himaru Append DLC for Hentai Prison did pretty well, Shirobune announced an Append DLC that people have been asking for a while. This one will include Nukatachi 2's Susuko route and Hinami's bonus chapter. These will be released as Steam DLC with a new external patch needed to read them. I will talk more about these next month since they are planned to be released in early October. Manga Gamer has released Funbag Fantasy 4 Brother Astor, developed by Waffle. This is a Nukige series that prides itself on having polyamorous harem relationships with one guy and very well-endowed women in a fantasy setting with a surprising amount of legit story. Despite this being the 4th entry, I believe there are different characters in every Funbag Fantasy series, so technically you can go into any entry anytime you want. Danar435 made an interesting restoration patch for Little Busters. More specifically, he tried to make the experience closer to the original 4x3 visual novel, removing the typical cropping of CGs that come with the old school way of upscaling or HDifying older visual novels. Apparently there were CGs in the original Little Busters, including a donut scene for Komari that were censored in the Steam version, that get restored in this patch. Danar also apparently changed the text to be more like the original Little Busters. I suppose if you want an experience that's closer to the original pre-ecstasy version of the Little Busters visual novel, you could try this out. Just keep in mind that this is not an uncensored patch for the H scenes from Ecstasy. Those are not included. Road 59, a Yakuza's Last Stand has been released, originally developed by Rocket Studio and published by Bushiroad. It released internationally in English, Japanese, and Chinese on Steam and Switch. Outside the fact that the main character is in the Yakuza, the only thing I know is that the setting is in a futuristic Tokyo, and apparently, the main character becomes a bartender and interacts with over 20 other characters. The description seems to suggest that the themes are based around desire, betrayal, mythology, and horror. Shirobune has released a PC port of the original PS3 fighting game based on Leaf and Aquaplus visual novels Aquapaza, Aquaplus Dream Match. This is a traditional 2D fighting game with a 6-button layout and features characters from older Leaf and Aquaplus titles like the original Urawaru Mono, 2 Heart 1 and 2, with some series only represented as assist characters like the 2 main heroines from White Album 1. Sadly, the release had a bunch of issues at launch. The first major one, as a major fighting game fan, it's disappointing that there's no rollback netcode, which has become the standard standard for even niche fighting games to be played online with anyone in the world with minimal lag and delay. This version of Aquapazza uses delay-based netcode, so if you live farther away, say more than a whole US state away from your opponent, there's a high chance you'll get lots of lag when playing online. But more concerningly, there are apparently issues when you play offline. For example, all button clicks are apparently all wrong, character names in story mode are untranslated, the frame rate is inconsistent and doesn't always hit 60 FPS even on a good PC, the game will sometimes just crash at random times, online lobbies are unstable, and disconnections are frequent. It's unfortunate that a PC port that took this long to come out still has all these issues. Ubisoft's newest title, Limelight Lemonade Jam, where the main heroines start a band, released in just Japan for now. Hopefully Nekonyan or possibly another publisher translates it eventually, since Ubisoft is the most popular moige brand in the West. At the end of the month, all 3 anime adaptations of visual novels that have been airing have had their final episodes aired. These include Summer Pockets, which started in spring 2025, Nukatashi the Animation, and 99 Ruler's Crown, both which began in summer 2025. As someone who watched all 3 anime from the start, I'll just briefly mention how they went. The Summer Pockets anime basically just covers the routes from the original VN, not from Reflection Blue. The 99 Ruler's Crown anime did an adaptation that mostly covered the plot elements of all 4 episodes, but just removed the majority of the slice-of-life comedy content with only implied romance towards Miyako. The Nukatashi anime was more or less just a tweaked version of Nanase's route from Nukatashi 1, but added elements from other heroine routes from Nukatashi 1, elements from Nukatashi 2, and even a handful of brand new events and ideas exclusive to the anime. While I would say that all 3 anime adaptations were relatively faithful in tone, only the Summer Pockets anime basically covered the majority of the original visual novel's plot pretty well, since Nukatashi went in a somewhat anime original direction, and 99 removing most of the slice-of-life romance and comedy aspect might turn some people off. Regardless, if you're interested in seeing any of these 3 series in anime form, or if you wanted to see if these anime could potentially get you into reading the original visual novels, I think all 3 of these adaptations are decent enough standalone. Shirobune has announced cosplaying in Costalia, the Tororo Sisters, developed by Akabesoft 2. The fact that it's developed by Akabesoft 2 might sound exciting since it's by the same developers who made Ashar no Kuni and Jisenjo no Mao. But considering that shortly after those VNs were made, the writer Loose Boy stopped making VNs and Akabesoft 2 has basically just been making Nukige for the last decade, I would only get hyped if you like the idea of a Nukige with 2 busty sisters doing a cosplay photo shoot on a paradisical island sounds appealing to you. That said, the fact that this is most likely coming out before the decade-long Ashar no Kuni Kickstarter is making me sad. And that wraps things up for September of 2025. As always, if you have any feedback, positive or negative, feel free to leave a comment below or one of my social medias. And as always, a huge thank you to the local weeb who does the editing for most of my videos now, as well as all the people who pay me monthly through YouTube membership or on Kohi. Much appreciated to all of you.